Hello everyone. As the Blaze Orange Battalion returns from the woods this past 10 days, I thought now would be a good time to think about what kind of wine you might want to enjoy with the harvest of the last 10 days. And we're going to talk about Wisconsin wines and Wisconsin venison. They really go together. The theory behind what I'm going to explain is really more about finding a style of wine that works with the style of venison. There is no wrong or right. You can try different wines with these different forms of venison and we'll kind of come up with different opinions, but at least the theory will help guide you in the selection that might work best for you. Now, venison, different forms here. We have the jerky form. We have the form that you're going to use for stew, making in a crock pot, or some brats that you might serve in a skillet or over an open fire. Now you're going to have different expressions and different textures to these forms of venison, but what we have here, thankfully, are different forms and styles and expressions of Wisconsin wine that go so well with this. It's kind of a match made in heaven in my view. I want to preface this with thinking about the fact that when you want to pair venison with wine or food with wine, you're not trying to have two opposing forces outduel each other. Rather, you want a symphony. You want to pull the parts together so they work in unison. So think about that in terms of flavors and textures. Now, the first pairing we're going to discuss is venison jerky with frozen Tundra Red. This is an example of pairing body with body. So Tundra Red is a medium-bodied red. Jerky is not going to be as heavy as stew, but maybe not as light or spicy as sausage here. So the thing about this also is that the cherry notes that are in Tundra Red go very well with the jerky itself. Now when we get to the venison stew, now what you're trying to emphasize is the earthiness, the texture, the smokiness that might come from a stewed version of venison. And I can attest to the fact that wild grape and 44 Red have an earthy component to them, and so I think this will be a very good match in terms of the flavors and the attributes that you get from the wine going with the texture and the flavors that you're going to get with a stew where the vegetables are being cooked over a long period of time with the meat. It's just going to evoke an earthiness that goes well. Now when you get to the final form here of venison brats, you're generally probably going to have a little bit of spice to these, and that's where you want sort of a semi-sweet expression in the wine. The semi-sweetness goes very well with the spiciness of a bratwurst. It's sort of akin to some people having, say, Asian cuisine with a Gewürztraminer or Riesling. That sweet-spice combo really works very well. So in this case, we have the M, which is a very sort of fruit-forward expression of the Marquette grape, and the Baco Noir, also very popular, grown here in northeast Wisconsin, has a sweeter component to it that I think will mesh very well with the spice that you're going to have in your venison brats. So that is the theory of these three different pairings, but this is the big tip that I want to leave you with. The best thing I think you can do when you prepare your venison to enjoy with your wine is to incorporate that wine that you're going to enjoy with the venison into the cooking process itself. So if you've got stew with a crock pot, put a bottle of 44 Red into it or a bottle of wild grape and use the wine's acidity to help break down the meat itself so you have this great beautiful texture to the meat. And then what you're also going to get is the flavors of this wine get incorporated into the stew itself, so when you enjoy that wine, the flavors of that wine are already mirrored in the food that you're enjoying it with. So it really works both in terms of prepping the food, but giving an enhanced expression of the wine when you're enjoying that particular form of venison. In this case, it would be the venison stew. So here are the three takeaways I want to leave you with. When it comes to food-wine pairing, remember, it's all about balance. Secondly, don't forget the versatility that we have with our wines here at Parallel 44 and Door 44. There's a wide spectrum of wines that work with all these different forms of venison. And thirdly, it's just like life. It's all about the journey. Try different things. You won't regret it. Cheers.